When I was about 7 or 8 years old, my mom came in one day and said, "Hey, red skeletons on TV tonight. You want to see them?" And I thought, red skeleton? Well, that's going to be amazing. I mean, that'd be the greatest night of all time. What does he do? Oh, he's a famous comedian. He tells jokes. Really? Yeah, I'll be there. This is what I'm thinking is going to happen. In fact, really, it was beyond this. Here's what I expected. I don't know why. This skeleton clacking around telling jokes, and it wasn't red like this. It was actually glittery red, like goes on your Christmas ornaments. And he had a cigarette in his mouth. I'm 7. I don't even know what a cigarette is. I don't know why I popped in there, but that's what I'm envisioning in my head. So yeah, I'm going to do it. In fact, I'm there 2 hours early because that's how long it takes to get our black and white 13-inch tube TV working. So the first hour is to get the tube on. You pull the little knob out, and it starts to hum, and there's a little dot. And it starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then there's a picture. It's all Coca-Cola at this time, but it's a picture. So then you start, that's the first hour. Second hour, you start playing with the rabbit ears. The antenna. You guys are like, what is this? You play with the rabbit ears, and you get it to where you can almost see somebody, but then one of the little antennas broke. So you got to put tinfoil on it up to the ceiling. All right, so you're set for that. And then what you have to do is start your tradition of finding different spots in the room to stand and taking funny poses until finally you get this spot where you can watch TV. So 2 hours in, I'm ready to see this epic red skull telling jokes. And then this guy comes on. Now, I found out later that Red Skeleton is a very funny guy. And by the way, I'm sure my mom did say Red Skeleton. I just didn't know what a skeleton was, so I guess I filled in the blanks. But to my 7-year-old comic book space brain, this could not compete with the image that I had created. And so I was disappointed, even though it was something pretty great. Let me ask a question. Have you had that happen to you? Have you been in the middle of something really epic and great, but you don't recognize it because your expectations are wrong? Has it happened? Well, God doesn't take chances, as you saw. He is not my mom. And he's not vague. He wanted to be sure that the Israelites knew exactly who he was and what they were dealing with because he had a mission for them. And here's what we saw. What God did, all right, and why he did it. First of all, just put ourselves in this place. As we just saw, we are his people. We've just been delivered from bondage. And we saw our enemies annihilated before us as we go across on dry land. Now, 2 weeks later, we're standing at the foot of this mountain. The entire earth, as we know it, is shaking. The lightning is flashing. The thunder is pealing. And God is beginning to speak audibly. Go back and check it out. And he says this, "You didn't deserve what I did for you, but here's why I did it. I want you to know how awesome I am. I want you to have fear of me, respect, in other words. I want you to have a lot of trust in me that I want what's good for you. And I want you to have a lot of appreciation because I got something planned for you." And here it is. Then he's about to go into the 10 Commandments that we've been talking about for the last few weeks. But he continues to set the tone. I want to give you something special. My secret 10-step recipe for living a good life. And the reason I want to do that is because I love you that much. And I trust you. Because I'm going to let you show the world how this is done. When you're ready, not by your time, but by mine. When I see that you're living this out successfully, I'm going to let the nations around you start to see you. And they're going to go, wow, I want that. Because they're going to see how good life is when you live this way. And it's going to point to me. Because here's the thing. I gave you this because, yes, you're in a broken world. But if everyone on earth lived out these 10, it would be the next best thing to heaven. It's the best you can get here. And I want the whole world to get there, and I'm going to start with you. So I'm going to give you this secret recipe. And as he starts to spill it out, nobody is thinking, oh, laws, like it's spinach or something. They're thinking, wow, the guy who made us is giving us his secret recipe on how to live. And so they're listening, and we're into the 10. And so the last 4 weeks, we've been talking about that. Today is a transition day. First 4 weeks, we talked about man and God, our relationship with him. Now we're rounding a corner to what do we do with that? Man and man, and that's command 5 through 9. Then there's another transition at the very end, which is to do all this, Set the thing no one can see. Set your heart and see people the way I do. We're actually going to talk about that on August the 5th. But today, we're starting the second part, this man and man piece. And where does he start with that, do you think? If he's setting this expectation, where's he going to start? Where he should, with family. See, there's a reason that God gave us these 10 commands. And today's follows this reasoning, and every other one follows the same reasoning. And that's it. There's a principle that we can apply. And we can use a funny concept called a principalizing bridge to figure this out. That's just a fancy word to say, what was going on in their town? What was happening in the lives of these people? We saw what was happening. All right? How are we different from that? How wide is the gap between them and us? What are the differences? Well, one is that we're under a different covenant, right, than they are. In fact, some people take that so seriously that they say we shouldn't even be bothering with these 10 because we don't need to worry about it. Thank goodness for grace, we don't sin. Well, I don't think that's true. But we are under a different covenant, so we need to deal with that today. The third thing you do is cross the bridge. What principle applies to then and now? How are we the same? Well, we are under a covenant, that's for sure, and we both have a mission. For the Israelites, here's the situation. Sinaitic covenant. I brought you as a people to a special place. I redeemed you from bondage. And what I want you to do is live like it. I'm going to give you these things to do. You're going to like it. It's going to be good for you, and everyone around you is going to get excited about it. And as long as you do that, they will want to be a part of it, and it will point to me. Because that's really what it's all about. And as long as you do it, I'm going to leave you in this land. If you don't do it, you need to find another place to stay. And really, that was the covenant. Today, Jesus Christ has redeemed us from our bondage, our sin. And he says, here's what I want you to do. I want you to live out these 10. He said 2, right? He said, love the Lord your God. That's 1 through 4. And then he said, love other people. That's 5 through 9. And numerous times in the Gospels, he talks about setting your heart so you can do that. So he covered all 10. He says, I want you to do that so people see how great that is, and they'll come to me. Now, we're not going to be kicked out of the land because it's an eternal covenant. But since I already said that this is the best way to live on earth, our experience is not going to be so great if we don't live these out. And God wants our best. So that's what's going on. And today we're going to talk about best for family. So let's go over to Exodus chapter 20, verse 12. Go ahead. Here it is. Honor your father and mother, that your days may be prolonged in the land which the Lord your God gives you. Now, there's a few things that pop out here to me. One is this concept of honor. So, since it just jumps right out, we need to deal with that. What is that and how we do it? So, in the context of today, we're going to handle that. The other thing is, what is this promise? That your days will be prolonged. In the land, in life, what's the situation? We need to deal with that. How does that apply to then? And how does that apply to now? So as we go, we're going to do that. And the way we're going to frame this is we're going to say there are 3 really good reasons, there are more, to do this, to honor your parents. And let's take a look at those reasons that we're going to talk over today. Here it is. Reason number 1, if you honor your parents, you're following God's design, which surely is good. And it's the design that he created for a good life in the land. Number 2 is you're also gaining from the experience of those who went before you. Your parents have wisdom, and you can use that wisdom to live better. And number 3 is you, by showing honor to your parents and learning what they'll give you, are passing that on to your kids to foster an ongoing God-centered culture. And we're going to come back to that concept. Those are 3 great reasons. And my proposal today is that we'll do that. We will honor our parents, whether we're young or we're grown. As long as our parents are on this earth or even their memory, we will honor our parents so that we're following God's plan. And we're going to see how that's necessary for God's plan in a minute. And also, so we can learn what they have to give us, right? So we can live the way they would like us to. And the third thing is, so we can pass that on to our own kids and see that the work that we're investing in them is taking hold. That's my proposal, that we do it. And if we do that, not only will we have a better life, but our generations will as well. So let's start with number 1. Following God's perfect plan for life in the land. Now, God had a design. He said, look, I created everything that you have. I made family, community, nation. He made it back in Genesis, and we're not going to belabor it, but the bottom line is this. He said, man alone bad, family good, do it this way. And they began to see the model for family. And now, just to make sure no one forgets that, God reminds them of it here. He says, hey, I want you to do this. I want you to honor your parents. I'm going to make this the very first command when it comes to respecting other people. And in fact, I'm going to put a promise on it. If you do this, you're going to get to keep this land. Now, what's the inverse of this? Yeah, if you don't do this, you're out. Now, does that kind of shock anybody? It might me, if I'm listening to this, I say, wait. We're about to talk about killing, adultery. You're telling me just by being rude to my parents, that's the one that you're going to kick me out of the land on? Yeah, that's right. And there are good reasons for that, and here it is. God knew that we people begin to feel very self-sufficient. Now, at the time that he made the agreement with them, they had him. They had finally really grasped how big God was. They also had one other thing. They don't have land yet, but they have one other thing that makes them have a good bit of power. Anybody take a guess on what that is? A lot of people. It's little pieces of gold. They had lots of money. They had lots of wealth from the Egyptians. And so they have everything they need to be a powerful people except a place to stay. And God doesn't want them to forget, once they get there, that he is the one who they need to rely on. Because he knows that once they settle, there's a very good chance that they'll begin to see their own power and start to fall away from the teachings of their parents. And we're going to talk about what those teachings are, but you can guess they have to do with honoring and loving God. He knows that's going to happen. And it did happen, right? I mean, how many times in the Old Testament did this happen? Somebody can look it up and tell me at the end, but I know it's dozen. King X did not follow the God of his fathers, but instead he worshiped the ceramic bowl of Kingdom Y. True? Over and over and over. And what did God do, by the way, when that happened? Out. True? Yeah. Because here's what God knows. He knows that the kids are going to start saying, if things aren't modeled right, Mom and Dad, I know this God thing is important to you. I get it. And look at here. I've got Moses right here. He's in my wallet. But see, we've evolved past this. I mean, do you see this happening today? We've evolved past this. We've come beyond this. In fact, what we decided to do is there's some neat things from the people around us we're going to go ahead and embrace. And God knew that was going to happen. And he could not allow that to happen because he had a goal in mind. And that was, through the family and the instruction of the parents and the children listening and doing, to preserve a culture that was about him. And he knew that if over time we began to fall away from what our parents were showing us, then we'd fall away from God. And he doesn't want that to happen. So suddenly it makes it very clear why this is the command that has this promise of you're in or out if you don't do it. Right? Is that sort of new for anybody? New thought? That all this centers on this? All right. Well, you can guess there's a role for children, of which I'm one, and parents, which I also am. So I have to do both of these things, all right? So let's check it out. Let's see what God says about this. In honoring our parents, there's a role for the children. Here's way number one, how to honor your parents. Do. This is the one the parents like. Do what they say, right? Ephesians 6 gives us a lot of detail about this. But first, it actually restates the command. It says, honor your father and mother in the Lord. And we're going to talk about what that means in a minute. So that it'll go well with you on the earth. Paul is using this principalizing bridge I'm talking about. The Ephesian church is not in Palestine, it's in Asia. So they don't care about losing Palestine, that's not their place. And we're beyond that, new covenant. So Paul brings it forward and says, this is not just about a piece of dirt. This is about living well on the earth. If you honor your parents, you're going to have a better life. And he also adds another clause that says, in the Lord, and we'll talk about what that means in a minute. But nonetheless, the main point is to show you, old covenant, new covenant, same command is there. So perhaps it's a pretty important one. And then he goes on to kind of tell kids what to do. To honor your parents by doing Here it is. This is the easy list, hard to do. Come when they call. Right? Go where they send. Do what they bid. Do not what they forbid. Right? Easy to say, hard to do. And do it with a smile. And there's another little thing we're going to talk about. And care for your parents when they get old. Seriously, it's there. And we're going to talk about all this. So do it because I told you to, and out of respect for them, and there are a lot of good reasons to do it. The welfare of the family depends on it. Family will fall apart if the kids start not honoring their parents. The community will fall apart if the family isn't together. And the entire nation will fall apart if the family isn't together. So it all hinges on this. It all hinges on this. Now, that's the do list, and that's what we have to do. But there's also the other side, the behavior list. So there's two sides to honor, do and behavior. Let's take a look at behavior. All right. Here it is. This starts to kick in when we go outside the home. Now, this is a real doormat. This is like a great doormat. Get your keys, put on your pants, have some dignity. All right? What this means is when you go out of the house, it's cool to obey your parents when you're there. That's good. But don't turn into a monster as soon as you leave. All right? Put on your dignity and represent your family well. Because people are going to judge your family by what you do. And God says, I want them to judge your family good by what you do. When I was in college, I used to forget my lunch. I've been packing my lunch since I was 18. And the same thing, a sandwich and 2 apples. And I'd forget it a lot of times because just like usual, because got too many things that I've allowed myself to be doing. And so I would put my keys in my lunch bag, in the refrigerator. So when I go out to the car, where are my keys? Okay, they're in my lunch, so I didn't forget my lunch. This would be a great thing for me, right? Keys, pants, honor God all day. It's in our behavior. It's by what we do and what we show in our family. So we got 2 things for kids so far. All right, stay with me. Do what your parents tell you to do. Gosh. Seriously, do it. Second thing is represent them well. And here's the third one. Now, we could skip this one, but I don't think we need to because this is where it gets beyond the platitudes. Here's what it says. Respect your parents even when they mess up. Because your parents are humans. Most psychologists say that we stay about 20, 18 to 22 for our entire life. Your parents are still just teenagers. The only difference is they've had to deal with a lot of life. All right? So they struggle with the same things that you do, but they've learned how to deal with it. And sometimes they don't deal with it as well as they could. So treat them with respect. When they're looking like what you figure they should look like as your perfect parents who surely don't make a mistake, and when they don't. The way you do this is to show love to them. Everything starts that way. Now, it's not going to help if we sort of start being rude or disrespectful or things like that, maybe spiteful because our parents make a mistake one time. Maybe they just had a lot of stress on their day and they're short with us, and then we're going to be rude and march off to our room. Well, that's not helping anything. Love your parents. Right? Here's the deal. We're under their authority. They're not under ours. So love is the only power we have to connect with them. I mean, sometimes people's parents are way off and they have some real struggles, and love is the only tool we might use to help them see their struggles. So we might actually even be a tool for our parents to come and see things. But I'm not quite wanting to go that far. I'm really just going to, they're trying, they're giving their best. Most days they're great. Some days, they mess up. Respect them on those days anyway. Now let me ask a question though. I can see, especially the younger ones, are like, oh no, this is tough. What if our parents maybe don't act worthy of our respect? I'm not talking about love, I'm talking about outward respect for them, visible respect that other people can see and they can see. What if they don't act worthy of it? What do we do? You have any guess? Do it anyway. I mean, that's the command. Respect them anyway. You need to do this, all right? And you need to preserve your family cycle by showing that respect. But hold on, what if it gets worse? What if your parents ask you to do something that's sinful. It happens. I told you this is harsh, but we got to get beyond the platitudes. What if they do? Well, Ephesians gives us an out on that. Remember I said a minute ago, honor your parents in the Lord so that it will go well with you. That clause means whatever your parents are asking you to do, so long as it lines up with that, all right, do it. Don't talk back, just do it, all right, because they want you to be successful, and they're trying to help you do that. But if they ask you to do something that you know is a sin, we have got to put Christ first. We've got to model that. Christ said that. I came, and sometimes family's going to be broken because of me, because you got to put me first. And that's what he means. Don't allow your family, or even when Paul talked about respecting authorities, he says in the Lord, he's talking about don't obey something that's sinful. That's okay. You have that out. That's good news, right? Is that good news? Yeah, is it good news? Well, what does that mean, though? It means that's your only out, all right? That's your only time of not obeying your parents, okay? This takes dedication. It takes love. The 10 Commandments are a love list. It takes strength and endurance to do this. And we have the Holy Spirit today to help us do it. Do it. All right, that's the kids' side. So parents are excited about that. Now here's the parent side. Because see, there's something that we're supposed to be doing while you do that. Go ahead. Yeah, here it is. We're supposed to be teaching. That's role number one. There's two roles I'm going to talk about. And modeling godly behavior. That's the whole point for the family structure. Besides the obvious propagation of the species, I mean, when it comes to social relations, it's about us having the chance to pass on God's teachings. Remember, originally, God is bringing this culture together. He showed them who he is. He was extremely visible. He's going to be less so over time. He needs the parents to pass down what they've learned. In fact, do you remember Deuteronomy? Right after the Shema, where it says, the Lord is your God, the Lord is one. God immediately goes into this whole instruction for parents. He says, here's what I want you to do. I want you to keep God on your minds. I want you to keep him on your children's minds. I want you to talk about him when you're standing, sitting, going to the laundromat. Everywhere you go, talk about God so they will remember who he is. That's your role as a parent. And model it. Do this better than they can right now so they can see it in you. And they'll want to do that. They're going to see the success in you by doing this. That's our role. In fact, and this is hard sometimes for parents, anything else that we do for our kids, like teaching them math, even baseball, is not as important as this. This is our number one job, is to instruct our kids in the Lord and show them with our model. So it's a good time for us to kind of look inside and see how we're doing this. It's really about walking the walk and talking the talk. And there's a second role now. So that's instruct. The second is do it the way God does, which is patiently. Oh, that's tough. And here's a way to do that. The same Ephesians list. Ephesians 6 is really awesome. It really does dig into this whole family thing. Remember, it started with kids do. Obey, follow, all right, in the Lord. Parents instruct and have patience and compassion. Listen to this. Do not provoke your children to wrath. Colossians 3:21 says this too, to discouragement, but bring them up in the Lord. This is hard for us to hear. Parents, let's not get so overzealous about what we consider to be obedience, because it's usually about, at least sometimes, about our own convenience and desires. All right, let's not get so overzealous about that we're going beyond what God considers to be obedience, okay? And we're making our kids want to get away from this God thing instead of want to be in this God thing. I mean, that's what we want. We want to encourage our kids to want to carry God onto their children. We certainly don't want them to say, as soon as I'm 18, I'm out of here, and you and God and... Claire and I have seen this happen. We've seen it with two families in the last couple of years. Now, I don't know where the kids will end up going, but it's the... now, we know a lot of parents who do homeschooling, and I think that's a neat thing. These particular cases are just extreme. I mean, I couldn't even describe to you the kind of rules and regulations these parents had around the kids. And in both cases, as soon as the kids were 18, they left and they tried everything they could try. I mean, it was like the prodigal son. Let me go do everything that my parents have been telling me no, 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 and not been giving me any reasonable reason for that. Well, that's not what we want, is it? I mean, is it? No. We would like them to continue to do what we're asking them to do. So here's what I'm asking you. Take a look at your kids, and this is me too. Are they generally coming when you call them? All right? Maybe they're a little slow one day. You know, that doesn't mean you have to slap them upside the head. Are they generally coming when you call them? All right? Are they obedient to God? Are they trying to be? Do they generally do what you say? Good. Then it might be okay if the music they listen to sounds like two cats fighting. It might be. Because now you have to check it. Our music sounded like that to our parents, and their music sounded like that to their parents. And you know what? This doesn't even get by religious songs either. All right? Do you know that when hymns first came, you know who Isaac Watts is? I just gave you a hint. He was pretty famous. He wrote Joy to the World and tons of hymns. He was the first guy who started this really big push of writing hymns. Because before that, it was just psalms. John Calvin, huge on only psalms, can't sing anything but songs, and can't have any musical instruments at all. And that's what people did. And one day, this Isaac Watts guy, he's talking to his dad, who's a pastor. And he said, I mean, just imagine this situation. He said, Dad, I'm really bored with our songs. We just do the same ones over and over and over. And his dad stopped. This is the 1600s, all right? His dad stopped and said, well, maybe you should do something about that. That is cool. And he did. Now, do you know what people thought of Isaac Watts when he first started doing this, putting his hymns out? Some people loved him. Some people thought the chains of hell had been broken through Isaac Watts because only psalms are songs that we can sing to the Lord. You know, let's not forget that Jesus sang a hymn on his way to Gethsemane, right? But only psalms could be songs that were sung for the Lord. And it created huge riffs. All right, and we got through that, and then hymns became the only inspired thing to do. And later on, some people started doing worship and praise songs, and that was like the hell loosening on earth. So even our own music falls prey to that. So here's what I'm asking on this. All right, I'm not trying to start a music war. The best way we can handle that is, you know, some of it maybe does sound like cat scratch to us. But if we're spending time with our kids and we're in their world and we're hanging with them, we know what they're dealing with, and we're hearing their music in that context, we can get our style to sort of start to cross that bridge and start to hear what it's talking about. And then we can talk to them about it and say, you know, maybe this is not such a good message, and help them see that. Or this one's okay. But we got to cross that bridge. It can't just be so overbearing that it creates a big wall. That's the point. All right, so that's the parents' role and the kids' role. Kids' role, do, be respectful, show the part, and parents is teach and model. Now, I know I just spent a lot of time talking to parents in a message about obeying your parents, and that seem odd to anybody? There's a reason for that. It's because our kids cannot learn what it's like to honor God and honor parents unless we show them and teach them. So we have a huge part in this. All right, that's number one. Number 2 and 3 are very fast. Go ahead. Here it is. Number 2, if we honor our parents, we're going to gain from their experience and wisdom. Here's the thing. They've been there, right? There's value in what they say. One of my favorite stories in the Bible is Moses and Jethro. All right, so here's Jethro coming along, and here's Moses. He's got the entire Israelite nation lined up for help. I mean, they're coming to him for everything with their cat stuck in a bush to serious theological issues, and Moses sitting there trying to deal with it one at a time, at a time, at a time. You remember this happening? And he's exhausted. You know, it's taking him all day, and the people are getting angry because it's going to take them 8 months, you know, to talk to Moses. And so Jethro comes along and says, you know, why don't you get some more cashiers out here? You know, why don't you open up a 15 and under lane or something? No, I'm kidding. He said, hey, listen, why don't you establish a leadership structure so you can have a lot of people dealing with fewer problems, and they can give you only the hardest ones. Now, that's not only really smart, and it probably comes from Jethro's experience as a shepherd and leading a family, but it's also the perfect model for a leader. Do you know that's what leaders are supposed to do? Is deal with the hardest problems not the easiest ones. And I've had people who've been over me who have done it that way, where they've said, you handle this one, I'm going to take this really brutal one. And I've had other ones where they don't say, ooh, don't want to touch that one. Here's what you need to do. Go do it. And boy, that's tough. It's tough to look up to that, because you're supposed to, as a leader, take the hardest things. Anyway, that's an aside. Here's the point. We got experience to share. Now, do you think your parents aren't wise? Do you think they have nothing good to share? I will contend that you're alive today because of your parent. Let's take a look. Here's a couple famous things that parents have said. They said, beds are for sleeping, not jumping. Well, that's good to know. You might die if you jump on the bed. How about this? If you want to eat, you have two options today. Take it or leave it. That's right. That's good to know. Are you going out dressed like that? Now, Claire said that to me when we got married one day, and I was horrified to find out that apparently for 24 years before we got married, I had no fashion sense. That's a terrible thing to realize. You hide all your other pictures. But it's a smart thing. How about this? Were you born in a barn? Now, if Jesus' mom asked that, what would he say? How about this? Don't eat those. They'll stunt your growth. Or someday your face is going to stick like that. Do you remember when I got Bell's palsy last year and my face fell? I thought she was right. I used to go like this, and it fell down. It stuck like that. I was going to have to call her, Mom, you're right. It stuck like that. I hope it'll go back. Seriously. Or don't put that in your mouth. It might kill you. You don't know where that's been. So we're probably alive because of our parents. So that's number one. There's two things about their wisdom. One is they have it. All right. Number two is they took responsibility for you. They're trying to help you do better. All right? I mean, they've done some smart things and some not smart things, and they want us to do right so we can live a long life. Now, I put this picture in because I tell you this. They know that there's some things that are just dumb to do. If Braden and Hadley do that, they're not going to live a long life, because I myself will probably arrange the meeting with God. No, I'm kidding. All right, here's the thing. Your parents want you to live a long time. And just because something sounds out of date, one of their advice pieces, doesn't mean it is. I mean, it's never out of date to say, both hands on the wheel, all right? Come home by curfew. Don't make fun of policemen, all right? Don't get in vans with boys don't get in vans with boys, okay? So these things are not outdated. They're pretty smart things to do. So if we respect our parents and do what they say, we're listening to them and we're hearing what they have to give us. And so that's a benefit for us. Okay, number 3. Here it is. Oh, one more thing. This is the obvious one. I brought you in the land, I can take you out, right? That's what the Lord said. And that's what Mom says too. I brought you in the world, I can take you out. So do what I say. Okay, number 3. Here it is. I'm going to get very serious as we finish today. About 5 minutes and we'll be done. By honoring our parents, we pass a strong example to our children of what it's like to love and care. We want to see our family grow in Christ. And the way we do it as children, whether we're 12 or 40 and we have a parent still alive, is to treat them with utmost respect. And we're going to talk about when our parents get older now. God demands that we care for our parents, especially when they're aging. The whole essence of the law of 5 through 9 is to do unto others. So let's treat our parents the way we want to be treated. And now I'm not just talking to the teenagers. I'm talking to us too. Show them esteem. All right? My kids and I have a pact. It's like this. Now, we can't hold them to it, but this is just what we say. We gave you 20 years in our house. All right? We're working on that. Plus more if you need it, and whatever support you need. Please give us 5 at the end of our lives. Unless it is absolutely impossible, please do not let us die not with our family. That's what we're asking. That's what God says. Take care of your parents. They gave you their whole lives. And here's why that's important. Not only is it important for you to show respect to them, but your kids are going to treat you how you treat your parents. See, this has to do with passing this down. Character is made or broken in the family by how kids treat their parents. And as we get older, that's why we want to break any habits now. As we get older, we want to continue treating our parents well, so our kids see that, and they want to do that, and they want to treat us well. Not only does family break down, but so do communities when kids don't treat their parents well. And especially with this old age thing. When they no longer are valuable to you, they can't do for you, what, do you just stop? No, you do for them. That's the whole essence of loving other people. Let's see what God says about this. It's just a few things. We're just going to call out a couple key parts here. They say, hey, if you don't care for your parents, you've denied the faith. How about that? That's a pretty big deal. Listen to your parents and do not despise your mother when she is old. I guess even then, dads must have stressed themselves out and died young because they was about the mom. No, I'm just kidding. Dads married young then. Okay, go ahead. If a widow has children, let them show godliness back to their household and make some return on their parents. That's what I'm saying about our pact. We gave you 20, give us a few at the end of our life, right? That's what it's saying. So the only point I'm bringing here is how seriously God takes this idea of caring for your parents, especially when they get old. So I'm going to exhort us here. Let's do this right now, okay? Wherever we are in this, let's start doing it. Let's not wait until we get to a place where our kids don't have a relationship with us, all right? Let's model how to keep the family together for them. Now, I'm going to give you a quick example here. My dad left his parents and then left me when I was about 5 years old, okay? I've only seen him 2 times in my life. Both were when he was an old man that I did not know because I had gone to a funeral and he was there. And I don't know the man at all because he made no effort to, and what happened is he didn't esteem his parents. He left them, then he had no model to go by, and then he dumped us off too. And that's not the way to go. Now, I'm not going to do that for my kids. I'm going to esteem my parents, the ones I can, the ones who are here, and I'm going to show them that we're going to love them all the way through, parents and step-parents. They're here. Not step-parents, parent-in-laws. We're going to love them all the way to the end of their life. All right, to model that for our kids, but not just so our kids will treat us that way. I mean, that's a good side effect, hopefully, but just because we love them. Just because we love them. Now, there may be some people, as we're ending our message here, who are feeling kind of convicted by this. By saying, my kids are grown. I can't model this. It's too late for me. Well, I'd like to tell you that I am a product of never too late. I'd like to encourage you on that. Yeah. This is my great-grandfather, Oralise, and his wife, Neva. He was a hard man, it turns out, in his youth. Didn't know God, all right, did not raise up godly kids. All right, so, in fact, kind of drove his kids out by how harsh he was. He was a kind person, but just very harsh, very structured, maybe a little bit overzealous, right, in what you would consider to be obedience. And he kind of drove his kids away, but they still got married and kind of sort of did the family thing. And they had a pretty good family, but they didn't know how to parent because they didn't see it. And then they drove their kids even further away. And then one of their kids had me, and he didn't know what to do. And so he abandoned us right away. So that was the history. And so here's a guy in his 70s going, okay, what do I do? How do I get my family? And in between, he had learned to know God. Now, how do I get my family to be a God-centered family? I mean, I blew it, right? What am I going to do? So he tries with the son, and that's not working out. Tries with them, and that's not working out. He goes all the way down 2 generations to a little 7-year-old, 6-year-old me. And he begins to fly me up and have me spend the summers with them. And they teach me what God is. They teach me what love is and how to have a family that loves God. So I'm telling you right now, wherever you are, if your family is together, then wonderful. In this, I mean in being God-centered, then great. Do all you can. Children, obey the parents. Parents, teach the children. Honor your own parents to keep it all going and make it all point to God. If not, if it's broken, go as far down as you need to bring it back. It's never too late as long as you're alive. So let's mend it, okay, if we need to. All right, here's where we went today. We did a lot, all right, in 35 minutes. We did some background. Why in the world did God deliver the people? What did he want them to do? He has a mission. He wants them to be lights to the world, to show people how to live better. There's 3 sort of sections in these laws, the secret recipe that we're looking at. We looked at today. Why to honor your parents? 1, God designed it in the beginning. It helps preserve the culture. There's roles for mom and dad, and there's roles for the kids. Also, we can be wiser because they've been there and they've taken responsibility for us. They're doing their best, so listen to what they say. And third, we can pass on an example of love and care to our children because they only see how we're going to love and care by how we treat them and our parents. So let's wind down with this thought. We're concluding now. God sets people aside for a reason. He set the Israelites aside to become a model for nations. In salvation, He sets us aside to become a model for how to do life. And in families, we are the model. I mean, look around at people who are not looking at God. I mean, their families are just we think we have it rough. Their families are in disrepair, and they're looking around for answers for how to do family right. In order to show them right, we have got to commit to certain lifestyle choices. We've got to honor our parents for the sake of God's design. We've got to do it to gain their experience and keep passing it on so that our children will love God just like we do. So as children of God, let's put this into action, all right? That's what I'm all about. I would love it if you like the message today. That's wonderful, and someone is likely to tell me that, and it makes me feel good. But I'd much rather hear next week you come back and say, this is what I did this week because of that with my parents or my kids. I called someone I hadn't called in a while, or I went and listened to something my kids were listening to and tried my best to hear the words through the awful noise. Now, this is going to happen to me. A couple of years from now, I'm going to be coming home from work, and I'm going to hear something. I'm going to run and go, is it okay? Are we having a fire? And Claire will say, no, he's just listening to his music. It's like, oh, gosh, okay. So I'll be there, and I'll have to do what I'm saying. All right, I have to listen to the context, all right? It'd mean a lot more to me if you're doing something and you tell me what you've done based on today. Now, as we go into our prayer time and our time to spend with God, some may feel convicted about some of today's message. I think we all have a place we could. Now, there's two things you can do. You can stand and pray where you are, or if you'd like, you can come up if you want to be bold and pray where others can see you. They won't know what you're saying. It's in silence. But if you'd like others to know, I am praying about something to do with today's message, they'll see it and they're praying with you. It's your choice, either way you want to go. You know, there may be some here today who aren't even in the inside of this. They're outside looking in and say, I don't even have Jesus as my dad, right? Well, you can do that. All you have to do is say, yeah, I don't know how to do this. I'm a sinner. All right? I want to take you on as God, my dad, to cleanse me and take the wheel. You can do that this morning as well. As we go to prayer, make those your choices. Everybody, let's stand. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for families. And this is coming from one whose family was broken at one time. It is so important, not only for us as individuals and our growth, but for our communities and for our nation. You designed it that way from the very beginning of life on earth. You said, hey, I have a reason for putting families together, and it's all about me. I want you to live well. I want you to honor your parents so that life on you goes well. So you have someone you can learn from and trust in who can help you get through this life as one of my helpers on earth. I want you to take this on to your kids. I want you to help them to keep the circle looking on me. Lord, as we come to you, we all have areas where we're doing well in this, and we all have areas where we're not. And we just ask you to encourage us in the places we're doing well and keep us moving. And in those places we need help, we ask you to reach out and give us the strength and endurance to do this for you, because this entire list is a love list, and love takes strength and endurance. And if we're holding on to you, then if we've accepted you as our Savior, then we have your Spirit inside us to give us that strength and endurance. We ask you to be with us now. In Jesus' name, amen.